There's a lot to be said for the final season of the epic zombie show The Walking Dead. The show's seen us through 11 years of our lives and probably lasted longer than most of our relationships. That being said, The Walking Dead has missed its mark in recent years and become somewhat stagnant. With the sudden exit of Rick Grimes a few years ago, the show never really resonated with its audience as it did in its prime. Showrunner Angela Kang has teased the possible return of Andrew Lincoln and also the series ending. Join us as we delve into why season 11 of The Walking Dead will be its last. Firstly, one of the major reasons why we think The Walking Dead's best days are behind it is because it's been dragging on for far too long with no clear direction. It's been fascinating to watch Robert Kirkman's humble comic books come to life on the small screen, but the adapted television series is a far cry from its comic book source material. This is because it can be hard to relate some aspects of comic book storytelling in movies or television shows. Maybe because the narrative doesn't fit well or draw on enough sympathy for a certain character. It could also be because there are too many characters to relay and inevitably some end up cut. The Walking Dead did a relatively good job and used the source material to its advantage up until season 7. Fans say that after this point the story got messy, drawn out, and somewhat convoluted. It's always sad when the creators of the show are pushed by networks or executives to draw out stories that have definitive conclusions years earlier. The fact of the matter is that The Walking Dead could have wrapped nicely in about 7 or 8 seasons. Yes, the narrative would be slightly altered to fit a shorter timeline and some characters' endings may have been cut short, but at least we wouldn't have to sit through the onslaught of the same zombie attack scenes with slightly different variations over and over. The Walking Dead definitely changed the game when it was released 11 years ago in 2010. The show serves as a masterclass on tension, storytelling, special effects makeup. AMC had so many firsts with The Walking Dead and truly treated it like a baby of sorts. Other successful shows on the network, including Mad Men, have not been offered the same luxuries, despite being as popular as the aforementioned Walking Dead. Part of the reason why AMC may have kept The Walking Dead on air for so long may be down to the amount of money they have invested in the show. The return on investment they had hoped for might not be quite as big as they thought. That being said, if they were to take the show off the air before it was time, it would only serve to diminish advertising and merchandising deals. The intellectual property for The Walking Dead is still very valuable. Whilst the show may be coming to an end, spin-offs such as Fear the Walking Dead are still in their prime runs and need to be looked after. The possibility for a new spin-off has been discussed by both Kirkman and current showrunner Angela Kang. It's a surefire way to keep people interested in the Walking Dead universe whilst finding new and innovative ways to tell stories. If they're able to achieve this and not just offer us another obscure timeline into the universe, then they're off to a good start. Another reason why season 11 is The Walking Dead's last is because of the vast amount of competition out there. The juggernauts of Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu combined represent the largest amount of market share, including networks. This means that networks will now have to find new ways to entice audiences to their channels. In the age of the digital revolution where streaming is king, people are no longer excited about a network season drop. They become much more accustomed to platforms like Netflix or Amazon dropping an entire season at once. This allows users to binge watch their favorite shows and engage in a deeper, more immersive way. This isn't possible for the old-fashioned style networks that rely on advertising revenue, not subscription services for their income. By default, it's hard to change the status quo here because the model that networks use to make money can't be changed, leaving networks way back in the Stone Ages. The Walking Dead has come to touch all of our hearts no matter how disgusting it gets. It served to show us important character arcs and has been inclusive with its characters and storylines. It was probably one of the first shows with an ensemble cast to do this. We give them their due props. But a lot of shows nowadays are super inclusive and do a better job of approaching sensitive cultural topics relevant to our time. The problem is that The Walking Dead can't remove itself from its past. It's used the same tricks over and over again, and quite frankly, audiences are getting bored. We're no longer excited to see our favorite characters in an epic zombie battle because we've seen it all before. The attack scenes, whilst intense and well shot, are reductive and repetitive. I don't know how long audience members will be to see Daryl running around one of the settlements with a disgruntled look on his face killing zombies. Audiences are also aware that Kirkman and the show's producers aren't likely to kill off any of the main characters. While the story has already reached its crescendo in the comic book source material, the show is a completely different entity, in that it's a show that's made for a television an audience, which means it has to follow important guidelines and plot points in order to build audience investment. This is done quite simply through character building. Over the years, producers have made sure to add nuance to the different characters in the show. The subtle differences make for an interesting show, but there's only so much help nuance can achieve. In the comics, characters are able to be killed off relatively quickly with little thought given to audience reaction. It may be done for the shock factor, or it may help tie up a plot point elsewhere. But the television series fails to deliver on these points we've mentioned above. The Walking Dead was an important show that enabled its creators and AMC to tell real and authentic stories in a zombie apocalypse setting. At the time, there weren't many shows like it, and it really helped to develop an interest in the genre as a whole. Before The Walking Dead, there came movies like 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead. These movies were masterclasses in the zombie horror genre. The Walking Dead confidently followed in their footsteps. It did one better by telling new stories and creating characters that were more in-depth and realistic than the ones that had come before. Where it lost its footing, though, was not being able to stay fresh and interesting. New shows like Netflix's Black Summer have been instant hits, taking valuable market share from The Walking Dead. Black Summer is shot in such a new and exciting way that it's hard not to want to watch it. From interesting camera angles and complete episodes with little or no speech, the characters were able to focus on niche storytelling and run with it. Unfortunately, The Walking Dead wasn't able to do it, not even with their spin-off series like Fear. It's a shame because we would have liked to see our favorite characters given the opportunity to become fully realized. But the stagnant path that The Walking Dead has gone down as of late is the reason it's been canceled. Only time will tell whether AMC will be able to pull a rabbit out of their hat and serve us another delightful Walking Dead spin-off. We're not quite sure if people are in the mood for it just yet, seeing the decline in viewership figures for the show over the years. But we are confident that given a few years off air and some hard time back at the development table, we may all be in for a treat in the future. New and interesting stories are out there, they just have to be found. The world of The Walking Dead is a beautiful one for all of its rot and devastation. It's a world that's been fully thought out and resembles our own in a sometimes all too familiar way. The possibility for a new show to take the zombie genre crown is possible, but we're still holding out for what creators, including Kirkman and Kang, decide to do next. As for the return of the man himself, Rick Grimes, we're not sure whether he'll be in the entire season or just make a cameo at the end. He may not even be in it at all, which would leave us suspecting a spin-off show surrounding Rick's new life would be entirely possible. It'd be nice to see Rick again and follow his story once more, but the creators will have to serve us a completely different kettle of fish if we're to invest our time in the future. We wish the entire team at AMC the best of luck with their new Walking Dead endeavors and hope they just don't keep us waiting too long.